All right, so we got the mid-season patch. I know, can you believe we're already to the mid-season? We have the Better Together challenges from July 29th to August 25th. You'll get rewarded for rolling with your crew. Complete 2, 4, and 6 games with the group to unlock 3 loot boxes, with each milestone paying out once. Then on top of that, there's also Junkrat's Loot Hunt. From August 1st to August 3rd, Junkrat is back with another blast of chaos and will be raining loot again. You can unlock up to 3 loot boxes per day, which would be a total of 9 loot boxes. In order to do so, you have to play 2, 5, and 10 matches to get those rewards. Keep in mind, there also will be Twitch drops, which should be loot boxes starting on the 22nd, so get ready for that too. So many ways to get loot boxes going into the mid-season. General update to tag improvements. Basically, they have the Mark is all seen button. Competitive drives will return August 19th to the 26th. They changed a little bit of how drives will be now. If you've completed the last drive, you're going to have a shiny prestige upgrade waiting at the top. Before the first checkpoint now, you won't lose any drive score for losses, and the amount you lose now scales up to last season's rate as you climb the checkpoints, making it easier than ever to claim these rewards. And on top of that, drives are now in Stadium. So again, August 19th to the 26th. The mid-season brings core map updates to Suravasa and New Junk City, where we've seen a lot of these changes in a previous video. This should make Flashpoint play a bit better, but I am excited to try out these changes. That will also be added to the mid-season patch. Now we're on to the hero updates. I'm going to start off with the dev update. The meta has been in a steady state for most of Season 17. So we are using this mid-season patch to take a look at less desirable perks, make adjustments based on hero ban trends, and tweak a few heroes in reaction to the Season 17 changes and the more powerful damage roll passive. We have Diva here with the Heavy Rockets major perk. Number of rockets reduced from 8 to 7, impact damage reduced from 7 to 5, explosion damage increased from 14 to 22, explosion radius increased from 2.75 to 3 meters, and the projectile gravity increased. It seems like what they're trying to do here is put more power into the Heavy Rockets perk and trying to make it so it bursts damage really quickly and has a little bit more effectiveness. I still think the other major perk is really strong, so we'll see how this goes, but this could be interesting against matchups like Winston now. It could change how that plays. Marissa's armor health has been reduced from 325 to 300. I always talk about this. Even though armor changes don't seem like a lot, they are. Sometimes 25 armor can be the difference between a hero being S-tier meta and C-tier decent. It's that crazy of a change sometimes. We quite frequently see that with Reinhardt. And then the Energy Javelin cooldown has been increased from 6 to 7 seconds, so just kind of reducing a little bit of Arissa's uptime and survivability. Not by a lot, but it will make a difference there, I think. And the cooldown on Javelin, I mean, hey, you add an extra second to that, that's still, that is a nerf. So, bit of an Orisa nerf. Reinhardt, the Crush and Victory major perk, over health gain increased from 50 to 100% of charge damage. So, trying to give you a little bit more value on those charges might be good. Like that over health change might be effective enough to keep Rein to a certain breakpoint. So we'll see how that goes. Sigma, experimental barrier, secondary ability, deployment cooldown reduced from 2 to 1 second. Ooh, okay. That is interesting because a lot of the 2-second one makes it difficult for Sigma to have good timings. This makes it a lot more interesting. I always say you want to play Sigma like you have a Zarya bubble sometimes. That kind of increases that chance. Massive Impact minor perk, Knockdown Stun now reaches maximum duration at 30 meters, down from 40 meters. That's pretty good, actually. I still don't think I'm going to use that perk as much, but it is nice to have. I will say that. So, yeah, overall, a pretty good Sigma buff to the shield and a decent adjustment to the minor perk. Again, they're going to be addressing a lot of the perks next season with their major perk refresh. This was talked about even when they first introduced perks back, I think, in Season 15. So I'm not surprised to see that they're not doing a ton, but these are actually pretty solid perk changes so far. Winston, the Short Circuit minor perk, bonus damage to deployable objects increased from 50 to 100. I think this is actually a good change. I felt like that perk was a waste if you took it. I don't know if it will overtake the other perk, but hey, if you're going up against like a Torb, a Yari, like Symmetra, I don't know if Symmetra counts for that with the turrets, but you go up against those type of comps, this could be a good option now. All right, so that's the tank changes. Again, a little bit light on the changes, but I feel like that tanks have become a lot more. There's a lot more tank variety. Again, in pro play, you may not see as much of that variety, even though you have. I do see a lot of variety even in pro play. But it feels like you can play most tanks. So on to DPS now. A few changes here. Ashe has the Rapid Fire minor perk. Primary fire damage penalty reduced from 15 to 10%. So that should be pretty good if you like that style of play. And then the Sidewinder minor perk. Knockback increase for both Ashe and enemies reduced from 20 to 12%. Sounds like they're trying to incentivize one perk and kind of make the other one feel a little bit different. So A little bit of a small change here for Bastion. The ultimate cost reduced to 7%. Or, I mean, not 7%. That'd be ridiculous. You'd have ult every fight. Ultimate cost reduced by 7%, so you get your ult quicker. Freya, Rev Draw Crossbow, primary fire damage reduced from 30 to 25, and the maximum ammo increased from 12 to 15. So, seems like here, reducing some of the damage and then giving some of that back in ammo uptime. We'll see how it goes. Freya is one of those heroes that will either dominate or you'll be looking at the scoreboard going, what's going on? Hanzo, Stormbow, primary fire. Base projectile size increased from 0.1 to 0.125. Well, there goes. All right. Well, looks like the redwood trees are back. If you weren't having fun getting rolled by Freya's projectile size, well, you know what? You can bring that to Hanzo again too. I don't know how much of a difference it makes with the numbers there, but obviously it'll be larger. Dragon Strike Ultimate. Ooh, Dragon Strike got a full buff here. Got the cost reduced by 8%, so you get it quicker, and the DPS has been increased from 300 to 400. I also want to add a little bit of a note here because I've had a few people that didn't know this still. Hanzo's ultimate can get rid of deployables. So say a BAP uses ultimate, you can kill the lamp now. That's a pretty big damage increase. I actually have talked about recently how I feel like Hanzo's ultimate's gotten a little bit better ever since they made the speed change, and as players adapted, they got better at that. Honestly, this is going to make that's going to be a sneaky good ultimate. Dragon Fury major perk, attack speed duration increased from 1 to 2 seconds, so you get a little bit of a buff there. Yamagami Technique, major perk, cooldown speed increased from 250 to 300%. So, looks like they're doing some pretty hefty changes here to Hanzo across the board, both in the perks and just in the way Hanzo is. So, Hanzo players will probably be happy with that. Junkrat, aluminum frame minor perk now prevents trapped enemies from being healed instead of revealing them through walls. That's interesting. So, adding an anti-heal to the Junkrat trap. And then TikTok major perk, concussion mine Armin, time reduced from 0.5 to 0.25 seconds. Just looks like they're trying to, make these perks a little bit more effective. And again, they said they were addressing perks that aren't being used a lot, so that's what you're seeing. Reaper, just a change to ultimate cost. The ultimate cost is increased to 9%, probably to kind of like get in line with the previous change they made at the beginning of the season to Reaper. Tracer's Pulse Pistols, spread increase from 3 to 3.5 degrees. So I think the idea here is to make the one clips a little bit less likely while also keeping the damage. I don't know how this is going to play. I imagine it will make Tracer a little bit worse. We'll see how it feels overall, though. Widowmaker has the ultimate cost decreased by 10%, so it looks like they did a bit of an ult. Sometimes they do this where they kind of go through and look at heroes that are just not keeping up with ultimates because they have that data. And there's all your DPS changes. Again, a little bit light on the changes, but honestly, Freya being nerfed, especially where they were talking about perks a lot, was good to see. Again, we'll see if it's too much or too little. And then Hanzo, I mean, kind of unexpected, but Hanzo with a bit of a change here for Hanzo players. So support, Juno with a bit of a buff here. The minimum fall-off range increased from 20 to 25 meters, so you actually get to play a little bit further back now. Juno's been one of those heroes that was really strong at first, got a bunch of nerfs, was still good enough to be played, but you could sometimes see that you would fall behind, especially if you wanted to play safe. So this should be helpful for players who like to play Juno. And then Glide Boost, ability 1, movement, acceleration, and air reduced when changing directions after the initial movement burst. I wonder if this is to kind of help with a little bit with being able to track the Juno, but we'll see how that plays out. And then Lucio, just a quick change to the ultimate cost. The ultimate cost is increased by 9%, probably to, again, go back to the beginning of the season where the 16 to 20 healing change happened. So that's why. Zenyatta Harmony Orb, healing increased from 30 to 35 health per second. That'll be interesting to see both in the main game and Stadium. And Transcendence healing per second increased from 300 to 400. Not surprised by this. I think they're changing that for the Hanzo change because basically I think the Hanzo ult could over time grind that out, right? If the math's right. But I also think Transcendence is one of the worst ults right now still, and I think this is good to kind of look into that. I always mentioned how like Zenyatta Ultimate is kind of used as a positioning tool and not like actually to save your teammates. So this is actually probably a needed change. Stadium updates. We're on to Stadium now. Patch notes have gotten, there's a lot more into patch notes now because of this, so it's cool to see. I like both Stadium and Core Overwatch. So, general updates. Ability tooltip details in the Armory UI are now always displayed. This option has been removed from the Armory. So what they're doing now, I think, is just making it so you can kind of see all the details. Sometimes you would like hit the button, it would go away. You'd be like, even I would get confused sometimes in that. So they're just making it so you just know all the time. Third-person camera. Aim down sights for Ana and Ashe has been updated to fade out over time for the local player while scoping in from third person. Now, I'll be real with you, I don't know how it's going to look when I play it, but sounds like they're trying to make changes to make it a better experience. And then your camera will now smoothly fade when it collides with allies from third person. So excited to see how it plays out. Obviously, I play first person in core and third person. People always ask me why third person in Stadium. It's been a nice change of pace. I've been playing Overwatch since the beginning of Overwatch, so it's nice to kind of have that change of pace. And honestly, I like both first and third now, which has been really cool. On to D.Va now for some changes. Toki Slam power. Now the damage scales from both armor and shield combined, so that will be an interesting track where you can kind of go a tanky build. Face tank and power increase the Halen scale to 50%, up from 30%. The refraction armor, this is a normal survival hero item. It's a new hero item, 25 armor, and while you have armor, gain 15% damage reduction against beams, a 2,000 cost. Ooh, that's got to be to address early game, because that's the issue you run into on D.Va. I will say D.Va is pretty strong right now, but this is going to be really interesting now, because that was a problem you would run into, is that you would just fall behind so much you could never catch back up. That's going to be interesting. That could help D.Va a ton in Stadium. I'm going to be real with you. I ain't complaining one bit here, because I think I use face tanking, right? This actually buffs my build. Right now, D.Va's #1 build, if you haven't tried it, the missile build. Really good. I'm sure everybody hearing this right now has probably been one shot by that build. My build is a tanky defensive build like this, where you can be aggressive, but you also can heal, and face tanking is a part of that. That might move that up to a round 5 item for me now, because that healing, we'll see. Orisa, advanced robotics power, now shoots the javelin after 0.5 seconds, and the javelin spin must be ongoing to shoot. Canceling javelin spin will also cancel shooting the javelin. I've never tried that power, so I don't know how it works that well. And then the lassoed power, if a javelin hits an enemy, nearby enemies are pulled to the enemy's position now instead of where it was hit. If a javelin hits the environment, it just pulls nearby enemies. If a javelin hits a barrier, the pull will not activate. Okay, is this the power that can sometimes be jarring, where you get javelin and then you get pulled back and forth, and it almost like slingshots you like a yo-yo? The developer comments say Orisa's javelin focus build has been effective at disrupting enemies, but it also came with some clunky interactions that impacted its reliability and clarity. This patch addresses those rough edges to smooth out the experience and help her disruption tools to feel more responsive and intuitive to use. Sounds like this will be a good change, because whenever that would happen to me, it was something. So hopefully that kind of gets rid of that jarring effect and makes it just a fun ability to use and better to play against, or feel better to play against. On to DPS here, there's only one change. It's to Mei, the slow ball power. Now normal hits with secondary fire will also apply slow to the enemy. I do want to point out, and again, I'll talk about this if it becomes a thing in Season 18, they really need to find more build paths for some of these heroes. One of the reasons why you see support queues be so long is because support's so fun to play in Stadium. Now, keep in mind, I like all 3 roles, but some of the builds you go on DPS in comparison to what you do on support are just not as exciting, right? You go like weapon power, and that's that. So I hope that going into Season 18, they find more build paths, because I think that will actually incentivize some of these other roles to queue up, and then when those roles queue up more, that might lead to less queue times for support players, which would obviously be their overall goal. Speaking of support, Ana has unscoped resources, epic weapon hero item, adds 15% weapon power. Ana has struggled to make an impact in the late game with unscoped weapon power builds. This new epic item is designed to address that, giving her the tools to become a more reliable, formidable threat. I like that. I actually like the unscoped playstyle in Stadium, because obviously I play in third person, so yeah, good change. Juno had the stellar focus power, increased duration to 50%, up from 35%. Kiriko has the clone conjuration power, some changes here. Now the clones heal and damage contributes to earning Stadium cash. So how about that? Now there is a short delay before the clone starts healing or dealing damage after being spawned, and clone's health has been reduced and can be increased by ability power. So it sounds like they're going to just make it what they said in the previous nerf, a utility-based power. But the Stadium Cache just kind of makes it an intriguing build. They didn't really kill the build. It just isn't what it was. So I'm curious to see where this goes. Maybe there might be some fun ability power builds you can go here that will make it a little bit more exciting. Maybe kind of combine that with like Suzu's and stuff, where you get the full value of that ability power. The Fleet Foot power, Swift Step cooldown is increased by 30% when used without a target. That's going to kind of nerf that a little bit on the back and forth. And then Foxy Fireworks power, projectile speed is now the same as regular kunai. And then the dev comments say Kiriko's clone is reworked to serve a more utility-focused role rather than functioning as the overly lethal auto turret it once was. This change should help her contribute more reliably to team utility and generate Stadium cash more consistently. In addition, Fleetfoot has been updated based on popular feedback, requiring a bit more commitment when diving into the backline, reinforcing the risk-reward dynamic of aggressive plays. Cone build's going to be interesting now because I think it's going to have value, but I don't know if it's going to be the same. We'll see. And that's it for the support changes. So overall, again, a little bit light on stuff, but it's not even light on stuff. It's like for a mid-season patch, it's a decent amount. I expect Season 18 to be stacked with stuff. Then there's one item adjustment here to Ironclad. Each stack of Overhealth granted now expires individually instead of refreshing the duration of all stacks of Overhealth granted from this item. The dev comments say Ironclad has been too powerful on certain heroes with low base ability cooldowns and crowding out survival options at that price point. We're making this more consistent with the other Overhealth stacking effects to bring the payoff down to a healthier level. So trying to open up more people to using other survivability items. I, even myself, probably underrated survival items a bit more because I would go up against weapon power Casses. But hey, sometimes those survivability items are how you get 3-shot instead of 2-shot by that Cassidy, and I think it's definitely look if you start to do a little bit more survivability items into like your ability power builds, you might even see more success because you're just have more uptime, obviously. Those are the mid-season patch notes. Let me know what you think. Also, people probably will ask, nothing in here talks about when Wu Yang will be available for playtest. It will happen. When that will be, I don't know. So, like the video, leave a comment, subscribe. All of that helps if you haven't. And I hope you all have an amazing day / night.